In the agenda, we're going to learn how to build a candidate profile. We're going to learn how to set a compensation, how to build your job description, executive summary, and then how to do a research on LinkedIn for a technical co-founder. And then we're going to create together a LinkedIn outreach message. So by the end of this workshop, you're going to have a job description that you can then send to any engineer out there to see if they are the right fit. So I want to go through a little bit about the basics before we dig into, how do you find the right engineer for you? Because if you are, again, like if you need someone who's an expert in like foot surgery and then you go to a cardiologist, then they're not the right fit. And it's the same thing in engineering. I'm also not going to take questions at the beginning, but I will take questions once we kind of go through the workshop. So the first step in finding a technical co-founder is that to recognize that you need to build the right candidate profile. And in order to do that, you need to figure out what you are building. Because if you, let's say, are building a mobile web application, or if you're building a web application and not a mobile application, then the type of engineer, the type of co-founder that you need is completely different. On the other side, if you are building an AI tooling, or some kind of AI chatbot, then the type of co-founder that you need is different. So the first thing is like, okay, what will your MVP look like? An MVP means the minimum viable product, which is like, what is one product, one feature that you can build that you can release to your customer that will solve the problem? And you can think about it like, Lalo, I know you are building a kind of a community event management system. But when you're thinking about the MVP, you can think about it as like, what is one feature that I can build and release to customers right away, right? It could be, okay, just a calendar of all the events happening, or it could be a community feature. But all these different features require kind of different efforts. So you want to focus on one. And then once you have that, you say, okay, well, will it be a web application? Will it be a mobile web application? Will it be a mobile app? Will it be a native or React? And we're going to go through a little bit more about that. Mobile web app means that once you can go on your browser on your mobile and then you see the app there. But even building that mobile app compared to website is kind of a different, not it, it's a different language, a different way of building applications. um, and then I wanted to go through a little bit. I know this is diving deeper, but I want to go through how do you build a complete app so then you can start recognizing the different types of engineering for your co-founder. So when you're building an app, right, you have the UI of your app, which is what you see on your browser when you open up the app. Like, let's say you're taking Facebook. The front end is anything when you click a button, it's how you put a button, how it looks like, all the colors. This is typically called a front end engineering. And then once you, like, for example, fill in a post, once you put a post and you click submit, that post will go in the back end of your application. It's going to go into your database. And all of these layers, like the front end, the back end, have different languages that you use to talk with the computer to it. And some engineers like are very specialized in the front end, like they're great at building UI. Some are very specialized in the back end. But if your web app is very front end focused, and then you hire an engineer that can only do back end, that can do a UI, that co-founder will have difficulty building that app for you. So this is why it's so important to understand kind of the architecture. So here I put it into different formats. So typically, let's say you have Facebook, the web application. It's called a web UI. And the most popular languages are React and TypeScript to build those. And then your web UI, your front end, will talk to the backend via an API layer. And then your backend, the two most popular language are Python and Node. And I wanted to add those languages because a lot of people like go and try to find co-founders, for example, and the co-founder is specialized in Java or is specialized in .NET or C Sharp. While they will be able to build a backend, they're not going to be able to really necessarily build a backend with the more modern technologies. And right now, you got to use modern technologies for your app because it's going to make you go faster. Like if you use Java or you use C Sharp or these like different old school languages, you'll probably have to rebuild your entire application over time because you can go as fast and not as many people know about it. So you really want to make sure if you're finding a co-founder that you're finding a co-founder that has those modern technologies. And then let's say you're building a mobile application. A mobile application, you can build it two way. You can either build two different code bases for your Android or iOS, or you can use something called React Native, where you build one code base and then you can reuse it for an Android and iOS application. So now that you understand a little bit about the different roles, I want you to first think about an engineering role that would be appropriate for your technical co-founder. If you are building a web application, which I always recommend, like between you building a web application and a mobile application, I always recommend you build a web application because mobile application, one, it's more complicated to build, and two, you need to go through the entire like Apple approval process, which is a pain. Well, if you're building a web app, you don't have to go through any processes. And there's also more full stack engineers out there than there is like specialized mobile engineers. So if you are building a mobile web and web app, you probably want someone who's a full stack engineer. And a full stack engineer means they're specialized in the front end and the back end. If you are building something very like intensive that's more on the back end heavy, that doesn't have a lot of UI in it. Let's say you are building like a biotechnology company, then that's called a backend engineer. If you, on the other hand, are just building like a simple chatbot and you want to do a lot of AI integrations, then you probably want an AI engineer who can really like build the AI for you. If on the other hand, you're looking for someone to build a mobile application, this is what I call. So what I want you to do is in that document to set up the different types of engineering that you're looking for your web app. So once you have that, you want to find somebody who's senior. The thing is that you have to understand is like now, if you have engineering skills, if you know how to build an app, you can go and you can probably get a salary between anywhere. It starts at 150,000 to 250,000. And some engineer, especially who are extremely senior, they can get paid between 500K and $1 million. So why is it so hard to find a technical co-founder? Because you are competing against those crazy salaries and you are convincing those folks who can go and get a high salary to come join you for no salary and equity only, which is very hard for you to do, right? And then you have to make sure that they are very passionate about the problem that you are solving. So people are struggling to find technical co-founders because you are competing against the Googles and the Facebook of the world that are paying crazy salary and crazy benefit. You don't need someone who has like 4+ years of experience. Probably someone who even has a 1 year of experience, who's fresh out of college, can build this for you, especially with ChatGPT, who can generate a lot of the code. So another thing I want you to do today is choose a seniority. So if you're looking for someone for something to like a prototype or an MVP that is a web app that is fairly simple, that doesn't have a lot of like crazy AI that needs to be done, then what you want is someone to 1 to 3 engineer, and you don't even need to call them a co-founder. You can call them a founding engineer, and then typically you can give them 5 to 10% equity and they would be pretty happy. And one of the ways you can find them is like there's a lot of college students now who have like maybe a year or 2 year experience doing internship and are looking for their next role, but there's not a lot of junior roles out there. So now is a good time to convince them to join you. If you want something a little bit more advanced, if you're building like developer tooling or if you're building deep tech, then you probably don't want like someone who just has 1 to 3 years. You want 4 to 7 years. And then you can then call them a technical co-founder. You can also entice them by calling them CTOs or lead engineer. And typically you want to give them 10 to 20% equity. On the other hand, if you are building like a deep tech or you need to build your own LLM or some kind of crazy AI that has never been built before, you want someone 8 years of experience, you call them CTO, head of engineering, and you can give them anywhere from 20 to 30% equity. These folks, like staff level engineer, typically in big companies, like even though I was managing a product that was generating like $30 million a year, I only needed one or two of these like deep tech staff level engineers. And those are the hardest to find and the hardest to convince to join you. So if you are building, and also in general, like if you are trying to build a deep tech product and you're not very technical yourself, then unless you have a technical co-founder, I wouldn't recommend you go through that route because it's extremely hard to figure out that technology. Um, all right, so now we have our role, we have our seniority level. Now we want to add it all together. Um, so now what we want to do is create a job description that you can then share with people in your network to really find that co-founder, that founding engineer. And what it looks like is that you're going to say, okay, I want someone with 3+ years of experience. I want a full stack engineer with experience in React and Node, because you need to identify the languages that you want to use in advance. Because like, let's say you are building something in React and Node, and then you have someone in your network that is C sharp, it's unlikely that they will be a good co-founder for you. And then you want to niche down. Let's say you're building something in healthcare. It's better to say you want someone in healthcare experience, or let's say you're building a SaaS application. And then you also want someone who's also building at an early stage startup. I see that a lot of problems. It's like, oh, that person worked at Google for like 10 years or worked at Facebook for 10 years. But the skill set requires to work at Google, to work at Facebook is different than a skill set needed to build like an application at a startup. So you probably want someone with a startup. All right, compensation packages. What do you pay them? Especially, you're probably bootstrapped. You don't really have a lot of money to pay engineers. You can't pay 150,000. Here are a few different structures that I've seen work. So typically, if you are post MVP, if you already have some kind of MVP built, what you want to do is you can give them like 20% equity post MVP. And typically, I've seen anywhere 2 to 4 year vesting. 4 year is more typical, but always make sure, even if you find like a technical co-founder and you're like, oh my God, this person is the person I've been looking for my entire life. Always put a 1 year cliff, which means that their equity doesn't start, they don't get equity unless they've been with you for 1 year. So if for any reason something happened, you don't lose control of your company. And I think be very hardcore on this 1 year cliff. Do not like give in to it. Um, and then the 40% range, if there are pre-MVP, if you're pre-MVP, you can go up to 40%. But again, never lose control of your company, of your idea, because that's something that you can never recover, even though the person seems like the most amazing person. Another thing that I've seen happen, let's say you have some kind of funding, you raise the pre-seed round, what you can do is you can give a combination of equity and salary, anywhere 25 to 30%, and anything between 50K to 100K. This would really help you, especially if you have pre-seed and now like you need to go fast. Like I don't have time to go and find the best technical co-founder. You can do something equivalent to that. Like I'll give you 100K, I'll give you 20 to 30% equity, but start working as soon as possible. And last, another thing you can do is you could do something called deferred salary, where you agree that as soon as you raise, you're going to give them a salary. As soon as you raise the seed round, you're going to give them a salary, but it's not going to start until you raise. And I think this is a good way for you to still entice the right engineers, but not have to worry about budget. And then another way you can say it is like, okay, I'm gonna raise in 6 months. Once I raise, I will pay you like 150K. Would you be open to like having those conversation? And it's another way to attract them. And I think for those of you who have never worked with engineering, who have never managed engineers, the hardest part of my job when I was leading engineering team is hiring, because engineers like are so thought after. So you have to think about it as like it's a sales process. You have to convince them to join you, not the other way around. So you can do something with deferred salary that I saw worked pretty well. And then a lot of engineering have titles like junior, mid-level, senior, lead engineer. Um, and then I wanted to go through that so you can understand, you can read an engineering profile and understand it. Junior software engineer means they have 2, 3 years of experience. Mid-level engineer means they have 3, 5 years of experience, and senior and lead is 5 years above. And then typically in engineering, once you are like reach lead engineer, you can go into two track. You can either go in eng manager or you can go into architect, which means you're architecting the whole system. You're not necessarily managing people. So basically, when you're reading a profile, if you see someone who's been a VP of engineering for a very long time, they are most likely now like leading engineering team and haven't been coding for a while, which means that they may not necessarily be the right technical co-founder for you, because you want at an early stage someone who has been coding. So between a VP of engineering with like 20 years of experience and a mid-level engineer with 5 years of experience, I would go with the mid-level engineer for your startup, because that means they can code and build your product more easily than a VP of engineering who's been just very high level for many, many years. All right, so now we're gonna build a job description. And I think the reason, even though it seems like, oh, I'm finding a technical co-founder, it's very passive, it's easier to build a job description, because then you can post it on different job sites and you can then start attracting co-founders to you. And at the beginning of a startup, you don't have a lot of information available for people out there. So this is why I recommend you start by building a shareable executive summary that you can then reuse until you have a more established startup, where you can put your mission, your product, why join us, and the team. And I'm going to share with you here an example of an executive summary that I built. And I'm going to share this template with you that you can literally copy and paste it. So an executive summary looks like this. You have your mission, like why are you building, the reason that you're building? What will your product look like? What is some opportunity for them to join you? And then here you can put the same thing as your pitch deck. Like, this is a $1 trillion market. I have 20 years of experience in that field. I'm going to be the next $1 billion company, and this is what you join me. You can put like your website, where you are, your company, the role, your team size, and a little bit about you here. So I'm going to share this with you afterwards, and you can literally copy paste this. And then we're going to go and put the open role. We're going to put co-founder, CTO, founding engineer, depending on the level. You can put remote NSF, and then you can put equity and the compensation. And you can, if you're deferred, you can put deferred, and the role responsibility. So this way, even though you're like a very early stage startup, people can then figure out that you're more, you're more organized, you know what you're talking about. If they really care about your mission, especially women engineers, what I found are very mission oriented. So talking about your mission will help attract people who have the same mission as you. So I'm gonna post this in the chat here. Okay, and then I'm gonna continue with that slideshow. Um, And then you create the job description. What is the mission of your company? Link to the executive summary. And these are three parts of your job description that I find are super helpful in getting people to apply to your job. Basically, talk to them about what will they be doing. If you haven't had your product yet, like you will be building a full stack application that is in React and Node that will, change healthcare. And then you can talk about, okay, you will also be building integration that does to integrate with blockchain systems. Or for you, Lati, if you can say you will be building a data lake or a data or using unstructured data or building a Gen AI MVP. So put a lot of what they'll be doing there so then they can see and anticipate if this is the right match for them. And then put what they need in the role. Like you need 2 years of experience in data science or 3 years of experience building full stack. And then what are the benefits? And benefits could be that it's not necessarily like, hey, you're going to get 200K with like full healthcare. Benefit could be like you are going to fast track your career, right? Because if this thing grows, if you never had a CTO role, now suddenly in within a year you're going to be CTO, you're going to manage in 2 years 5 to 10 engineers. So the career growth of joining your startup is higher than any other job out there. And then all of that, nowadays, you're so lucky you have ChatGPT. Kind of put all of that in ChatGPT, tell it, create a job description. This is what I have. And like in 5 minutes, it's going to create a job description that you can share. So your job description will look like this. A role, responsibility, right? What they're going to be doing. And you can reuse that template as well, which is you're going to read product development, define the technical vision, you're going to manage the development cycle, and then what they need for a role. Here, I need 4 years of full stack, someone in React or Python, someone with experience in databases, APIs, previous startup experience is a plus, etc. And then the benefit is like, you're providing a flexible work environment. Now, a lot of these roles require them to go on site, but the difference with you is that they can work from anywhere in the world. They can get professional growth, they can have an awesome culture, and then, if you can provide health benefits, you can post that as well. All right, now you have the job description. We're going to start doing LinkedIn search. In finding engineers on LinkedIn, it allow it allows you to post a jobs here for free. Um, and then in jobs here, you can create a job, post a free job. So you can literally take that job description with the title and you can post it and you're going to start getting salaries. And in that job description, you can call it like technical co-founder, founding engineer, equity only. And I've gave that recommendation to a woman founder in my community and she was able to find a technical co-founder that way. So you can post a job on LinkedIn, you can post a job on Indeed, and I'm going to send you a list of places you can post your job. But another way also you could do is now you can be proactive in trying to find the right engineer for you. So you can do a LinkedIn search, and I'm going to show you how to do a LinkedIn search. So let's say now you're looking for a full stack engineer. You can put here full stack engineer and you can post people in here. And then typically I recommend starting with your first connection because it's easier to find. And then you can start looking, like I have 595 people that I can message about my technical co-founder role. And then what I want to do is I want to show you how to read a resume here. So let's take Henry. He's a full stack engineer at Quizlet, means he can build full end, a back end. He's doing some gaming as well. Um, and then here you can see he's been doing Next.js, which is JavaScript. He created, classroom game for teachers. And he has really like 6 month experience, which is very little, but I think like if he might have enough to be able to build your MVP for you. He went to UCLA. He's very interested in gaming. Um, and then what you could do is you can message Henry with, hey Henry, I'm looking for a technical co-founder. And let's say you are building a game developer. You can say, in the gaming space, would you be interested in chatting? Here's a list to my calendar link. So this is how you can proactively go and find someone. Let's take someone else, right? So I want to read Dante's profile. So he's putting full stack engineer, he's putting embedded systems. Embedded system means a lot of hardware. And you can see here he has a hardware. Um, and okay. Okay, so you see, in general, like he's putting full stack developer, but if I'm reading what he's been doing yard engineering. He's been doing a lot of Azure. Azure is an old school technology. So for me, that is like a red flag. Like it's not a red flag, but Azure, typically the people who are doing Azure are doing more like not really startup-y things. He has a lot of like back-end data processing. And then here he's doing a lot of like back-end engineering. So even he was a founder, but even as a founder, he did embedded systems. So even though he looked like he has the skill set, he's very back-end focused, which might not be the best place if you're building like a full stack application. So I would skip Dante for what you're looking for. And then let's look at Xavier here. He's a full stack engineer. He has JavaScript, which is always good. TypeScript, Next, React. It means it's like pretty good languages. And then he's a founder himself, so you won't be able to convince him to join you. Um, so then next, so then you read every profile to make sure that they are the right people for you. And then you probably have like tons of people you can reach out. Now, once you run out of this, you can go to second. And in second, you can start connecting with people and you can tell them like, hey, looking for a technical co-founder, love your experience, let's chat. And then once you connect with them, you can then message them. And then the best people to message, you see how there's this like field called open to work. It means these people are in between job. And if they have, so like you can probably convince them to join you. And this lady is amazing. Like she was a technical staff at VMware, right? She built something in Node, which means she has the right technologies. Right now, she's in between jobs. So you can probably get a staff level engineer and not pay them that way. And then what you can do here is you can do open to work. And then you can find all these people open to work in between jobs for you, and then you can start connecting with them. All right. So then how do you write a LinkedIn outreach template? Again, I've run a recruitment agency for 3 years. So the thing that I found is the easiest is to keep it short, to link it to your job description, and to add a link to your Calendly link. So here in that document, you can literally say, hey, Dana, I'm the CEO of your company. This is, either your website or this is a link to my job description. And I'm hiring a CTO. We are a climate tech startup growing fast, and we're looking for a CTO to build our MVP. You can book time with me here with a link to book time with you. Boom. Short and sweet. You're going to start getting people booking time with you. And that's how you start like finding a co-founder and very, very easily. So then this is one way, which is outreach. For me, when I had my recruitment agency, the best engineers that I found is when I went and outreach for them. Rarely did I find somebody come through like job board because you get a lot of junks there. And then a few places that you can post your job board, LinkedIn job. One thing is called Well Found. They're awesome for like startups jobs. Hacker News, where a lot of engineers live, and Indeed. And then I'm starting a job description board yet, but anyways, in a few months. But what you can do is you can use these four to post your job, and you're start gonna getting applications and resume in. So that's a little bit about how to find it. I'm gonna share this with you so you have it. But again, you're so lucky you have ChatGPT that can help you find that job description. And then before we dive into question, I wanted to chat with you a little bit about what I'm building. So Founders Bay, what are we? We are 32,000 founders and VCs here in the Bay Area. We're really on a mission to provide a community for you to build your startup. And we do these workshops almost every week. You can join as a member of Founders Bay. Um, if you join a member, you join a private community. We have our own WhatsApp channel. You get free access to all of our workshops. You get VIP access to a lot of our Founders Bay events. And then you can access all our previous workshop and recording. And then you have weekly office hour with myself and different experts. So if I open up the calendar here, we have tons of upcoming things. So next week we're doing a New Year Eve masquerade ball. I'm doing a women in AI breakfast. On January 3rd, we're doing a workshop on SEO. On January 7th, you can have a free legal consultation with a startup lawyer. We have steps to build the Gen AI MVP on January 8th, strategies for raising funding on January 9th. So every week we have workshops to help you succeed. And this membership will give you access for free for it. So for today, I'm giving you like 70% off. So I'm going to post it here and would love for you to join us.